Sort of going back to the Uber driver from the Endz, how much of sort of that is based on sort of obviously you've been an Uber
What are you
driver
trying to say, yeah?
yourself.
What are you trying to say, yeah? You trying to say, yeah? Listen, yeah. Don't even. um, yeah. So there, it's kind of an extension of myself. Yeah, as you said, well, I still do the driving as like I say, got bills to pay, so
Yeah,
you got to do that.
exactly.
So there, yeah, so I do that, and some things that happened during that have inspired some of the sketches. Also, the character himself is, you know, I'm from an area that might be called the Endz.
Yeah.
So you know where I grew up, you know, you see a lot of colloquialisms being used, like slang being used, and you know that people, you know, getting into fights, people talking tough, all that kind of stuff, and you kind of grow up around around that. And myself personally, I didn't get involved with a lot of the urban culture, mostly because I was just at home playing video games a lot. But certainly it was something that I grew up around, and something I learned to kind of navigate as going through life. And so yeah, the character's kind of based a little bit on myself, but then exaggerated into well, what it is.
Yeah, yeah. When it comes to sort of coming up with ideas and stuff, and what is sort of do you have like a process where you sit down, maybe you have a select time where you've got to come up with ideas, or does it just sort of come to you naturally, organically, and you go with the flow that way?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both. I'll say more the latter, though, in terms of anytime I've tried to kind of sit down and just write something, it can happen, but I find that more often than not, you're just kind of sitting there like overthinking stuff. I found a lot of the times, at least some of my favorite ones I've done, at least anyway, usually just come to me as like, I don't know, somebody said something, it's like, wow, that's a good idea. And, you know, just trying to remember to write it down later. Or, you know, just various things you just kind of see, or maybe something that, well, sometimes things happen and I don't even think about it. And then maybe a week later, something happens and it reminds me of this. And it's like, oh, actually, that could be a good idea for a sketch, you know?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's really just trying to be inspired by anything and everything and just letting it come as it comes. And you know, sometimes yeah, you know, you have your times where you do sit down and you can sometimes write, you know, stuff and just kind of get it out. But yeah, I think for the most part, at least for me anyway, yeah, it's just as it comes.
Yeah, yeah. How long have you been doing YouTube now? Because it has been quite a while. It's a few years.
Yeah, I mean, I think my first ever YouTube channel, I mean, I don't know which year it was, but it would have been not long after YouTube started. I think YouTube started in 2006.
Yeah,
So it would have been maybe 2007-ish, maybe around about then.
yeah,
And it wasn't much. It was just like, you know, you set up a channel and YouTube was very new at the time. So
yeah,
it was one of these things where you just set up a channel, you just like post random videos because it was a cool new thing. I wasn't really thinking of, you know, being on YouTube at I don't think anybody was at that time really.
no,
But it's
yeah,
just like the cool new thing that was at the time. And I just post like random videos of like responses, and I guess a few poetry videos as well I posted at the time. YouTube was a much different landscape back
yeah,
then.
yeah,
You know,
definitely.
very different. I mean, to be fair, it was about as different as it is the same, in the sense that a lot of videos back then was, you know, one person talking to a camera in their room.
Yeah,
And although you watch a video now, like for example, let's say Philip DeFranco, you got one person in a room talking to a camera. The difference between now and then is that back then it was literally one person like doing the editing, one person doing the writing, one person doing
yeah, yeah,
all that kind of stuff. Now you got like, you know, researchers, you've got an editor, you've got a producer, you've got, you know, all these kind of team behind you that you don't see. So yeah, as much as it's changed, there's still that kind of one person, one camera element to it.
yeah.
But yeah, this is about 2006, 2007, and then I think sometime around 2000. What year are we in? I guess around 2008, 9 is when I set up the channel that I have right now.
Yeah,
Um,
that's quite a while.
and actually maybe a bit later than that. I can't remember. It might be a bit later, maybe 2010. But yeah,
Hmm.
the channel I have now was set up right about then, and that's when I was kind of like, okay, I want to post videos. And I wasn't really entirely sure what I wanted to post. But I knew I wanted to post videos fairly consistently,
Yeah.
and just started off posting mostly like film analysis videos,
Hmm.
which eventually kind of drifted into me taking a piss out of movies. And that eventually kind of drifted into me taking a piss out of a lot of different things. And
Hmm.
then I was kind of like, you know what, I like telling jokes. I've always liked telling jokes. So how about I do comedy? How about
Yeah,
I try
yeah,
that?
yeah. Well,
How about I
it
try
does
that?
work well. It works really well. Sort of, you do a lot of comedy, and then occasionally you will do it's a real talk video where you sit down, you'll talk about something going on
Mm.
whenever it sort of comes up. When it comes to filming those, do you find it easier because there's no pre-planned material, or is it harder because it isn't pre-planned? You're just talking about what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, with those, the technicalities of it, yeah, it's easy. You just sit in front of
Hmm.
the camera, you talk, right?
Hmm.
In terms of the topics, though, depending on what I'm talking about, it can be difficult
Yeah.
sometimes, and especially I think because one of the things is that I think about is, I mean, I don't how to describe it, because on one hand it's like you want to be real,
Hmm.
but at the same time you don't want to be an arsehole.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes as you're talking, as things come out, you kind of have to look back and think, okay, did that come out the way I intended it to come out?
Hmm.
um is that really what I want to say? Can I word that better? In that sort of thing. And on one hand, you don't really want to be overthinking it because you don't want to feel like you're just censoring yourself, but at the same time it's like, if I put it out in this form, in the way it is, you know, that could unnecessarily cause, that can necessarily like cause some kind of issue which detracts away from what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So there's that part of it where it's like, especially if you ever talk about potentially sensitive subjects, then you, you have to kind of think about, okay,
Yeah.
how am I wording this, and what is it that I'm trying to say, and should I even be saying it? That's another thing as well. You know, we all have
Yeah.
opinions and we all have thoughts on various things. You know, right, wrong, good, bad. But and although we're all entitled to our opinions, that doesn't necessarily mean that all our opinions need to be shared.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, exactly. That was the
yeah.
interesting thing, I think, about YouTube when it started as a platform. Was it initially started as a place where you really could express your opinions to some quite extreme levels. There's some really
Mm,
extreme content on YouTube earlier on, and then sort of the more it blew up, the irony of it was is that people enjoyed seeing creators talk in an uncensored way, but equally, as more attention was turned towards it, they had to censor themselves more. So it was sort of the irony of it.
mm,
I suppose, as in a way, that's sort of the advantage of what you're doing. Obviously, the disadvantage is the obvious. You have to work, as you say, because you've got to pay the bills. You don't
yeah.
get the money that some of the big creators get, but you do get sort of a little more freedom in terms of getting to share your opinions on stuff. Um,
Yeah.
I guess when you started it, what was sort of the vision for your channel? What was sort of, when did you first go, this is something I want to do? And when you did, sort of, what were you thinking? Where did you want to take it?
I'll take it as far as I can take it. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's really what it comes down to. I mean, I'm not gonna pretend like I wouldn't like to make a living out of this. Of course, why not?
Hmm.
But I do feel like, for me, I don't want to make money my main priority,
Yeah.
because I think once you do that, you start making decisions that compromise your arts, and I don't want to go down that route.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's just taking it as far as I can take it. I think a friend of mine said once that everybody has an audience. You just need to find that audience. So for me, it's about finding the audience and finding the people who enjoy my comedy, enjoy all the other stuff that I do as well, and trying to reach as many of them as I can.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, just got to be
Finding
in
the
it for the long
audience.
haul.